The morning sun beat down on the Marine training field, baking the earth into hard-packed dust that clung to boots and sweat-streaked faces. Fresh recruits stood in two uneven lines, their gear hanging heavy, their nerves hidden behind forced bravado. Laughter and low mutters rippled through the ranks, the kind born of exhaustion mixed with arrogance. At the far end of the line stood a woman, her frame smaller than most, her posture steady but quiet. Her fatigues looked the same as everyone else's, though somehow plainer, stripped of any effort to impress. She didn't fidget or whisper. She simply waited, eyes forward, calm in the storm of restless energy. The others noticed her silence and took it as weakness. One recruit leaned toward another, smirking. "Bet she won't last 5 minutes in close combat," he whispered. The other chuckled. 5? More like 2. Hell, she should be fetching water, not wasting our time here. Their laughter spread like sparks catching dry grass. Heads turned, shoulders shook, the sound filling the air with smug confidence. None of them realized their voices carried just enough for her to hear. She didn't flinch. The drill instructor, a battle-hardened sergeant with eyes like steel, stood off to the side, arms crossed. He didn't bark at them to quiet down. He didn't correct the mocking. Instead, he watched the woman, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. He knew what was in her file. He knew why she was really here. And so, he let the laughter run its course. The recruits straightened suddenly as the sergeant barked an order, snapping them into formation. "Today, we see what you're made of. Close combat drills. No excuses, no mercy. You think you're tough? Prove it." The men glanced at one another, smirks lingering. Their eyes drifted toward her again, hungry for the moment she'd stumble, fall, confirm their easy jokes. But the woman didn't blink. She adjusted her stance, boots firm in the dust, her breathing slow and measured. If she felt the weight of their laughter, she didn't show it. What they didn't know, what none of them could have guessed, was that she had already endured training most of them would never even be allowed to attempt, and what was about to happen would silence every whisper on that field. By the second week of training, the recruits had already decided what she was, an outsider. She was smaller than most of the men, lean where they were broad, and quiet where they were loud. When they lined up for morning runs, her boots hit the dirt with the same rhythm as everyone else's, but the sneers came anyway. "Pick it up, little legs. Don't trip. We'll have to carry you. She'll wash out before months." And they grinned as they passed her, fueled less by endurance than by ego. Some made a show of bumping her shoulder on their way by, testing if she'd snap back. She never did. During gear hauls, the recruits watched her with sharper eyes. The packs were heavy, straps cutting into shoulders, sweat pooling down spines. She carried hers without complaint, face unreadable. But when she shifted her weight to adjust, the whispers started. "See that? Already struggling. She doesn't belong here." They wanted her to crack, to give them something to point at. Weakness they could use to justify their laughter. But she gave them nothing. No anger, no shame. Just silence. To them, silence meant surrender. To her, it meant something else entirely. The drill instructor noticed. He said nothing, but his gaze followed her during every run, every drill. He saw the way her stride didn't falter, even when the men surged ahead. He caught the way she conserved her energy, never wasting motion, never overextending. She wasn't slow, she was pacing herself. While the others burned hot and fast, exhausting themselves in the early weeks, she moved with the rhythm of someone who had carried weight far heavier, for distances far longer, in places far more hostile than this dusty training ground. The recruits laughed louder, convinced they'd pegged her. The instructor's silence only encouraged them. But deep in his eyes was something else, something only a seasoned soldier would notice. Recognition. He had read her file before she arrived. He knew the rumors that weren't written, the kind of lines you only spoke behind closed doors. She wasn't just another recruit, and if the others kept pushing, they were going to learn that lesson the hard way. By the third week, the teasing had hardened into something meaner. During squad drills, when partners were assigned for maneuvers, the men found excuses to sideline her. They paired off quickly, leaving her stranded at the edge until someone reluctantly stepped forward, usually with a grin that said they were humoring her. Don't worry, sweetheart, one sneered, tightening his gloves. I'll go easy on you. Others muttered wagers under their breath. $10 she wouldn't make it through hand-to-hand training. 20 she'd cry before the week ended. The jokes passed around like smuggled contraband, fueling their pride. She never reacted. She moved with the same measured pace, never too quick, never sloppy, just enough to pass unnoticed. She absorbed the mockery like rain on stone, but restraint was its own weapon. While they laughed, she studied. She watched. The way each man shifted his weight, the overconfidence in their stances, the holes they left open when they swung too hard. She filed it away, silently. Still, the louder she stayed silent, the bolder they grew. On the track, one recruit jogged backward in front of her, mocking her pace. Careful. Don't trip. Wouldn't want the medics called out for something so delicate. The others howled. She kept running. Then came the shove. It happened during formation drills, boots pounding the dirt in unison. The men kept their lines tight, shoulders brushing as they pivoted through commands. She stayed locked in rhythm, her steps precise, until one recruit, grinning, leaned just enough to shoulder check her. She staggered half a step but caught herself immediately. Her eyes flicked to him, steady, unreadable. Around them, whispers flared. Finally, let's see what she can do. The drill instructor's gaze cut across the formation, sharp as a blade. But he didn't bark. He didn't step in. His arms stayed crossed, his silence deliberate. The recruits smirked, sensing a storm brewing. They wanted her to break, to lash out, to prove them right. But she only straightened her stance again, eyes forward, as though nothing had happened. It wasn't surrender. It was patience, and patience in the right hands was far more dangerous than fury. The sun beat down mercilessly when the drill instructor called the recruits into a wide circle on the training field. Dust swirled at their boots as he barked his orders, voice booming across the yard. Today, no hiding. No excuses. 1 versus 1, live sparring. I want to see what's in your bones when it's just you and an opponent. Step forward when called. Ripple of energy ran through the recruits. This was what they had been waiting for. Bragging rights, pride, the chance to prove who was toughest. But when the instructor's eyes landed on her, the atmosphere shifted. "Williams," he barked, motioning her forward. The circle erupted in laughter. Volunteers surged ahead, eager to be the one to humble her. One recruit jogged out first, grinning wide. "Don't worry," he called, flexing his hands. "I'll make it quick." The sergeant gave a sharp nod. "Begin." It was over. In seconds. The man lunged sloppily, expecting resistance to crumble. She stepped aside with surgical precision, redirected his momentum with a flick of her arm, and swept his legs out from under him. He hit the ground hard, choking on dust before he even knew what happened. Gasps rippled through the circle. For the first time, laughter stalled. But the silence didn't last. "Lucky shot!" one recruit shouted. "Try that again. See what happens." The fallen man scrambled to his feet, face red with shame, but the instructor raised a hand. "He's out." Next, another stepped forward. Then another. Each came in with swagger, convinced they'd be the one to put her down. Each fell just as quickly. A sharp pivot sent one sprawling to the dirt. A calculated counter left another wheezing from a jab to the ribs. Her movements weren't flashy. They were controlled, efficient, every strike landing with purpose. She didn't waste energy, didn't grin in triumph. She simply reset her stance after each takedown, calm as a metronome. The circle grew louder, their bravado now mixed with disbelief. "No way. She's got tricks. She can't keep that up." But 5 had gone down already, one after another, and she hadn't even broken a sweat. The circle tightened, boots grinding into the dirt as every recruit leaned in, hungry for the spectacle. The laughter was still there, but it carried an edge. Now, forced, nervous. No one wanted to admit it, but doubt had begun to creep in. The drill instructor's voice cut through the noise. "Next!" A taller Marine stormed forward, jaw clenched, fists raised high. He didn't waste time with jokes. He came at her hard, swinging wide, trying to overwhelm her with sheer size. She slipped under his arm, pivoted, and wrenched his elbow into a lock. The crack of pressure was sharp, the grunt of pain sharper. He dropped to the dirt, clutching his arm, and the circle erupted. "Come on! She's not that good!" another shouted, charging in before the instructor even called him. He led with his shoulder, aiming to knock her flat. She met him halfway, using his own momentum to flip him over her hip. He landed flat on his back, air knocked from his lungs, gasping like a fish on the bank. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Each Marine came in faster, angrier, convinced they'd be the one to prove she was just lucky. But she was a storm contained in flesh, every move deliberate, every strike exact. A twist of the wrist, a sweep of the leg, a strike to the chest that folded a man where he stood. She didn't fight with fury, she fought with mastery. By the sixth opponent, the air was electric. The crowd pressed close, eyes wide, voices caught between jeers and disbelief. The Marine squared his shoulders, face red, determined not to be another casualty. He lunged, feinting left, then right, trying to catch her off guard. She didn't flinch. In one fluid motion, she trapped his arm, twisted, and brought him down hard into the dust. He groaned, writhing, pinned before he could even process the defeat. Silence. 6 men lay scattered on the ground, coughing, clutching ribs, arms, pride. The dust hung in the air like smoke after a battlefield skirmish. She straightened, calm, composed, adjusting her sleeve as though nothing extraordinary had happened. For the first time since she'd arrived, not a single recruit laughed. The dust hadn't even settled before the whispers began. Recruits leaned toward one another, voices hushed but urgent, like children trading ghost stories around a fire. No way she did that. 6 of them. Gone like nothing. She's not a recruit. No recruit moves like that. The circle buzzed with disbelief, pride crumbling under the weight of what they had just witnessed. Some still clung to excuses. They weren't ready, or she got lucky. But no one truly believed it anymore. The silence in their laughter had said enough. At last, the drill instructor stepped forward. His boots thudded in the dirt, his shadow falling across the groaning men still sprawled on the ground. He let the tension stretch, his eyes sweeping over the faces of the recruits, wide-eyed, humbled, waiting. "You think this is luck?" His voice cut sharp, making a few flinch. "You think she's here to fetch water, or fold when things get tough?" He jabbed a finger toward her, still standing calm in the center of the circle. "That woman isn't here because she needs training. She's here because you do." Confusion rippled. Some frowned, some blinked. The sergeant's tone dropped, lower, weightier. "She's not a recruit. She's a transfer. Former Black Ops specialist. Missions classified so deep most of you will never even hear whispers of them. When doors needed breaking, when the mission demanded precision, she was the one they called." The recruit stared at her like seeing her for the first time. She hadn't moved, hadn't so much as smirked. She just stood there, expression unreadable, letting his words hang in the air. "She didn't come here to learn," the instructor continued. "She came here to evaluate, to test this program, to see if any of you have what it takes to measure up. And from what I've seen..." His gaze swept the circle, lingering on the bruised and beaten sprawled in the dust. "You've got a long damn way to go." The recruit's pride burned, but awe flickered beneath it. No one dared laugh now. For the first time, her silence spoke louder than their jeers ever had. The field was silent. The only sounds the groans of the 6 Marines still sprawled in the dirt, and the steady wind carrying dust across the circle. Moments ago, the air had been thick with laughter, with bets and insults and overblown confidence. Now, not a single voice rose. Every recruit who had mocked her, everyone who had joked about her size or her silence, stared at her with wide eyes. Some looked away when she met their gaze, shame written plain on their faces. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk or let even the faintest trace of triumph show. Instead, she brushed the dust from her fatigues, adjusted her sleeve, and stepped quietly back into formation. Her expression was calm, her posture unchanged, as if she hadn't just dismantled 6 trained Marines in under 3 minutes. The drill instructor let the silence stretch, making sure every recruit felt the weight of it. Then slowly, he stepped into the circle. His boots crunched against the dirt as he looked from face to face. "You see this?" he barked, pointing to her. "You think strength is about size? About who yells the loudest? About who can run their mouth and swing their fists the hardest?" No one answered. Not a soul dared. "Strength," he continued, voice sharp as steel, "is in discipline, in control. In skill you don't have to brag about because it speaks for itself. And today—" His gaze swept over the battered men still catching their breath, then back to the recruits standing rigid in the circle. "You just got that lesson drilled into you the hard way." He turned toward her. For a heartbeat there was something different in his eyes. Acknowledgement, respect, maybe even a flicker of pride. But he didn't linger. Instead, he faced the squad again. "Respect isn't given in this corps," he said, his voice carrying across the silent field. "It's earned, and today, she earned it." The words hung heavy in the air. The recruits stood taller, chastened, their bravado stripped away. None would dare mock her again. And she, without a word, had claimed her place among them.